Hi, I'm Scott McLean from TranceMusicMastery.com. In this video, I will show you how Adam Sabo created a bass sound like the one heard in Arisen, original mix by Arksun. The sound that Adam created sounds like this. Okay, let's go ahead and walk through the MIDI sequence. Let's move these out of the way for a moment. It's based on the note F and follows this rhythmic pattern. Essentially, if we break each beat, if we just look at each beat, we've got an eighth note F followed by a 1/16th rest and then a 1/16th note F, and then that pattern repeats after 1/8th rest here. It repeats once, twice, three times, and then it reverses here. It's the 1/16th note and then a 1/16th rest and then a 1/8th note F here. Goes up an octave and then down and up again. So I'll just play this. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up the sound map for this patch. Adam says, this sound is basically two supersaw sounds combined with one of them being one octave lower. A low-pass filter takes away some high frequencies to give it a bassy tone. So we have two oscillators, oscillator 1 and 2, both using 11 voice saw waves. Oscillator 2 is pitched down one octave. The output of those flow into a filter. This is configured as an LP Excite filter type, and the cutoff frequency is modulated by envelope 2 with zero attack, medium decay, sustain at 23%, and a fast release. That then flows into the amplifier with the volume being modulated by envelope 1 with zero attack, medium decay, sustain at 62%, and a fast release. That then flows into an EQ with a low shelf 6 dB boost near 175 Hz and a bandpass plus 2 dB boost near 1.1 kHz. And then that flows into the main output. Okay, I'm starting from the initialized patch, so if I just play the sequence now, just to get a feel for how that sounds. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is set oscillator 1 to 11 and add some detune. So we'll set the detune amount to 12. And it's a fairly wide sounding bass sound, so we're going to increase the width to 100. Okay, next we're going to add oscillator 2. So let's hear how this sounds with oscillator 2 as it is now. Alright, we're going to set oscillator 2 to 11, and both oscillator 1 and 2 are saw waves. And then we're going to set detune to 17. And then we're going to use oscillator 2 to fill out the low end. So we're going to lower that one octave by setting tune to -12 semitones. And then finally we're going to set the width to 100 to make it nice and wide. Okay, now let's look at the envelope. We're going to leave attack at 0, decay we'll set that to 26, sustain, set that to 62, release, going to have a lower release setting it to 4.5, and then velocity to 0. So let me go ahead and make those changes. So that those envelope settings have tightened it up a bit. Alright, next we're going to add a filter, VCF1. And this is using the LP Excite mode. We're going to lower the cutoff to 117. And then increase the resonance to 13. And then set the key follow. We're going to increase that to 20. And finally, we're going to add some very slight envelope modulation with envelope 2, modulating the cutoff frequency. And this is going to be a very slight amount. We're only going to set it to 4.0. So let me increase that. And then let me set the envelope settings, and then I'll come back and demonstrate the differences that this is making. So for ENV2, we're going to set the attack, leave that at 0, set the decay to 24.5, the sustain level, bring that down to 23, the release, bring that down to 7.5, and the velocity, set that to 0. So let me go ahead and set that to 0 now, and then I'll make the additional changes. Okay, that takes care of the envelope configuration. Now let me come back over to the filter, and I'm going to reset this to 0, and then I'm going to gradually bring it up to 4.0. And, well, in fact, what I'll do is I'll set it to 4. First I'll just set it to 4, and I'll hit this undo, which will set it back to 0. Yeah, so I can undo and redo. So here's without the envelope modulation on the filter, and then when I click this, it will have the envelope modulation. It's a very subtle bit of high frequency. Right at the note start, it's brighter, and it's very subtle. So let me set this to 0, and then I'll bring it up. In fact, to help demonstrate this, I'll just hit notes on the keyboard. So without that envelope modulation, it's slightly darker sound. So what occurs to me on this is how subtle this treatment is with this envelope modulation, but how you notice if it's missing. So this is something, a principle that we could apply. We don't really need, this much modulation. 4.0 is enough. And if you really listen for it, you can hear the difference. Gives a little bit of a finer edge to it when it first starts. Okay, so let's go to the next module, which is the EQ. So let me bring in EQ1. And for this, we're going to bring the low shelf filter up to plus 6 dB, and then put a plus 2 dB boost just above 1K, probably close to 1.1 kilohertz. So let me go ahead and add those. Okay, so here's with and without the EQ. Just helps round out the low end on this bass sound. Gives it more weight. And that's it for this patch. So I'll play it one more time and then that'll be the end of the video. I will see you in the next video.